Okay, welcome everyone to the Project Grant Program webinar. I'd like to start by acknowledging the First Nations owners of the lands where we all now meet. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm on Turrbal and Yagara lands. I pay respect to all First Nations elders past, present and emerging, as well as their laws, customs and creation spirits. I recognise that these lands have always been places of teaching, research and learning. I'd like to acknowledge the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within our community. I'd also like to welcome any First Nations people online today, and I would encourage those online who are on other lands to acknowledge the First Nations owners in the chat. So welcome everyone to the Project Grant Program webinar. I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Research and Project Manager Ondine Bradbury, who will provide an overview of the program and process. And if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. So over to you, Ondine.
Thanks, Ricky. Good morning, everybody. My name's Ondine. I'm the Research and Project Manager here at NAFEA, and I'm on Wurundjeri land this morning, and currently the land of the free as well in Melbourne. Just going to put that out there. I'm touching wood at the same time, but we do put our, thoughts and encouragement out there to everybody who is not free in lockdown at the moment, that we're thinking of them too. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the NAFEA Project Grant, and we've got our next grant time coming up and opening in July this month. And so we thought we'd take this opportunity to run a little webinar, talk a bit about what the grant entails, and give the opportunity for anybody to ask some questions as well. But if you're watching this at a later time, watching the recording, just feel free to use the email that will show a little bit later if you have any questions post as well. So this morning I'll talk a bit about the grant, some past recipients and the benefits that our recipients have reflected back to us. Talk a little bit about what you're considering about with an idea and some suggestions with that. And then finally, some tips and processes around the grant. So just again, welcome everyone, and hi Jeremy, welcome, and pop anything into the chat as we go as well. So the NAFEA Project Grant has been running for quite a while now. I think that we've been tracking the uptake of the grant and the grant recipients back to 2017. And you can see there that we've had 11 projects that have spanned 7 universities or 7 institutions across Australia, which is quite incredible. I think that that's a testament to our members taking up the grant and also being able to have very diverse grant recipients and team members in the research projects as well, which is great to see. So just the table on the left-hand side there, you can see that we had a very high uptake in 2019, and that was commendable for all universities involved, and some really great resources came out of that year. And then in 2020, we ran the COVID grant, and we're just wrapping up that grant now and receiving updates from all our project recipients currently. So this year we were fortunate to find out that there were 2 publications that stemmed from the project grants, and we congratulate those teams that have concluded their grant projects with a publication. It doesn't always happen like that. However, it can, and not just publications, but conference presentations, webinar presentations for NAFEA. And I think also, as we'll see, some quite diverse opportunities have come from the project grants as well. We offer up to $2,000 for our grants. And so it is, we would encourage that it is a small project. but also you might find that there's often in-kind support from the universities. So we have seen that in the past, that universities have kicked in a little bit extra, or that people have given of their time. And what you will see from the grant funds, that it usually culminates in a tool or a resource that is very useful for the university, but also distributed to our members. So that's very important from our side to see in a grant. Okay, so some of the benefits that we've had reflected back from our grant recipients. So there's been lots of connections built, and not just connections within the university or the institution, but external as well. So we're looking at industry partnerships in that top dot point there, where the IEAA approval went through with one of their resources, and they road tested it on industry partners as well, who really gave them great feedback. I'm not giving you too much information about who the recipients were with this. I'll show you the project grants link in a moment on our website, and that can give you a lot more detail. And also in the past newsletters, you'll see lots of this detail emerge. The other benefit was working with diverse teams. So in our institutions, we do have members that are predominantly from professional staff or administration, and we also have academic staff, and of course organisational memberships that span the breadth of who supports work integrated learning. So when you have put together your teams, you often find that you would have an academic, you might have someone from the professional staff or administration section of your faculty. And this allows for a really great landscape of perspectives. So the breadth of perspectives is quite rich, and that's what we've heard back from our members who have received the grant. Accessibility. So having this grant in your institution can often allow you to have access to spanning different areas of your faculty. For this particular team, they were able to get down on the ground with the students and have this communication that they might not have had previously. And it was very informative for them around their work moving forward. The next dot point there is about next steps. So once the project grant finishes, often teams are able to continue the work, and they're able to justify why they actually did the work in the first place, show the outcome, and then get encouraged to continue to add a scope to what they'd started. And then finally, and probably, I would probably argue most importantly, and jump in at any time too, Ricky, because I know that you're very passionate about the project grant too, the materials and the tools and the resources that are born from the project grant. You know, this particular team had an instrument that was used to measure satisfaction of work integrated learning administrative and processes and procedures, and also stemmed into industry partners. And most recently, there was a team that developed a resource that was able to be adapted to lots of different faculties around occupational health and safety with their work integrated learning students. Okay, so part two, thinking of an idea. So if you've been thinking about, well, you know, I would like to put in for this grant, but I'm not too sure of why we would do it or what I'm going to be spending the grant money on or investing into. So the first phase would be to think about your role in the university or in the institution. So a lot of our project grant recipients link back to the organisational goals of the institution. They think about what's possible in their role, what might be a barrier or a challenge that they're overcoming at the moment that they might be able to invest these funds into, and also thinking about improvements. So it can be anything from the ways in which you're working organisationally to supporting students or developing tools and resources, as I've mentioned previously, that can go further than just that particular area that you work in. The next phase, I often call it co-conspirators, but it can also be collaborators. So thinking about the 5 HWs, so who would they be? Who would be working with you? Who do you think would be the best people to support you or to help drive something? Maybe you're keen to take on the grant, but you're not too sure whether you would be the lead or whether you want to be a co-lead. That's what those who, what, when, why, hows are all about. Part of the project grant is also accessing and receiving the go-ahead from your next in line. So you'd really need to communicate with them about why you would like to conduct a research project with the funds from the grant. Pinpoint the direction of your project. So think about where you want to be in 6 months and in 12 months, and start to design that in your mind, or have a chat with somebody about that before you start thinking about putting in that formal application. And put the feelers out. So as I said, I know when I personally did put in for the grant twice when I was professional staff member. And the first grant was put together over a cup of coffee with 2 colleagues, and we just talked about opportunity and what we wanted to do, and that's how it was developed. That was the genesis of it. So it's amazing what can be done over a cup of coffee. Phase 3. So to research or not to research. So you've got, this is technically a project and research grant. However, you know, we're talking here about ethics-based publications, which is not 100% necessary if that's not the direction that your team wants to go in. There is an upcoming NAFEA journal that's being developed, and we would definitely encourage you to give that a go if that was on your agenda with your team. However, you know, creating tools and resources that are purpose-built for your university and can be applied to different contexts, that's the main idea here. So, you know, I think it's a bonus when you come out with a publication. So I put a little image there about leadership, just remembering that you do have those people around you that will be giving you some really good advice about the project grant, and also just reminding there that the funding is intended to do those 4 things in those dot points there, linking back to the NAFEA members, but also being this shareable resource and shareable information that is developed out of the grant.